All right, YouTube, Repo Man 64. We're coming up on a very important date. I'm going to try to get through this video without a lot of coughing. Whatever that was, it still got a hold of my lungs, so much so it's actually hurting my stomach muscles, coughing so much. So I'm going to try to get through this for you. I want to show you where we're at on the timeline. The more I work on the timeline, the more I realize that it is in fact accurate. All of these calendars that everyone continues to bring, none of them will abide by the rules of the Bible. And it's super simple. It was put in there for us to see very simply and what we're supposed to see in order to know that you're on the right calendar. And you can use, again, I have spent the last 5 years trying to disprove the calendar because I didn't really have a dog in the fight as to when the year started. I didn't really care. I only wanted to put it down so that we had an idea of where we are. Even now, with the timeline that I think is correct, I will always say that if the start of the year were another day other than March 17th, let's say it is the equinox, for example, um, when they do the equinox, then they must count from when the flood started 150 days to land on the cross. If that doesn't happen, and from what I've seen, I've watched, I know Mikhail Shabbat, and there's a couple of other people that claim to use the Enoch calendar, but they don't. And what they're going on is a comment that they see in Enoch, and it says, on that day equalized is the day you start the year. And that's how they've done it. And they've gone with the concept that, well, he must have been speaking about the equinox. The only problem with the equinox is that even they, when they say that it's the equinox, will throw the moon in there for some reason. Or they won't count out what Enoch said 30, 30, and 31, 30, 30, and 31. None of them, none of the calendars, I have to be careful how I word this. You must go based on the Bible. The Bible is the true authority. The Bible is the only authority. And so when we go based on every single verse I have ever found so far in the Bible, you must start the year on March 17th. There is no extra month. It doesn't exist. It's not written anywhere in Scripture. So for them to say, well, it's Jewish or Hebrew custom to try to realign. You don't have to realign anything. It's super simple. It's just like the Gregorian calendar. It always starts on January 1st. It always does. It always ends on December 31st. That's how it ends. It's almost perfect. The Gregorian calendar is almost perfect in that it starts the same day. And then, of course, they have every fourth year, which is what we're in now, which is why Purim has moved over one day on the Gregorian. Doesn't move on the Enoch, but because it has, and I'm just simply trying to present to you the actual date, um, it appears to have moved, but it actually on the Enoch timeline it will not have moved. Now, I say all that to say that while going through the timeline, I bring you the date that the incident happened in the Bible, and when we go to that incident and it says, well, from this incident to that incident, it's this many days and it's this many days. And when I put it down and it actually matches, trust me, I'm floored by it. So I'm going to try to get through this video because, man, my voice and my head and my stomach muscles from all the coughing are sore. So let me get into this. I've got a bunch of pictures, of course, while I'm trying to recover from this. I study. And so I've watched a few really good videos um, of people who are look at, like I asked Incro Symphony, I said, please, and you should go subscribe to her channel. Sorry. Go subscribe to her channel. She did some, now she's an engineer. So when it comes to timeline, when a date happened, that's great. And I have lined it up with everything in the Bible. That's fantastic. But when it comes to relationships between why January the 11th happened, how did that happen that everything lined up perfectly on January the 11th and the day just passed without a bleep? Or did it? Did it pass without a bleep? Did we see a Nineveh incident? Did we see a warning come out? And then 40 days later, after that warning, are we coming up on a date? And when this perpetually happens, it never ceases to happen. So when I do a Nineveh count from January the 11th, we come up onto, what day is today? We come up onto tomorrow or the next day, the end of tomorrow, which is the 21st in Israel. And what happened on the 21st? When I do all the math, we find out that this is the day that Moses died. He was born on this day, he died on this day. When he died, and you heard me in the last video when I realized that it was 30 days that they mourned Moses' death, not 7, I was a little confused. I said, well, how does that fall? Well, if you read the passage very closely, which we're going to, you'll see that Moses died. They mourned him for 30 days. And then God said, get yourselves up together. How many were there? A million? I don't know how many there were that crossed over the land of Canaan. Get yourselves up, pack everything up, and go across into the land of Canaan. Something they should have done 40 years earlier, but because of the bad report, they didn't. So, how long does it take that many people to get up, get packed up, and get out? 3 days out here in the secret broadcast cave with, that was a bat. Yeah, that's it. That's what that was. It was a mosquito. So, I'm going to go through the pictures and show you again. If anybody anywhere could ever find a verse in the Bible that directly contradicts anything that I've found, that just falls perfectly on the timeline. And I've put this call out there many times, and if they could find something like that, then I would have to concede, right? But so far, people are coming up. Well, it's a dar too, not biblical, not found anywhere in the Bible. Well, we have to start it when it's in Aries, not biblical, not anywhere in the Bible. It made a comment about Aries back in Jesus' time, but we all know about the precession of the sun. You have to take that into account when you're doing your math. You can't just say, well, it's in Aries. It's not in Aries. It was then 2,000 years ago, but it's moved. It's moved a whole constellation, and it's going to move again. It's going to continue to precess, and it'll actually be going through that water. It will not go through that water of Aquarius, dumping out the water bowl. The sun won't be going through that unless you start the year on March 17th. If you start it on March 21st, it won't do that. The entire story that God has put together for us in heaven is completely wiped out. So let me get into the pictures real quick, and let me see where we're at. I've taken a lot, so hopefully I can remember everything. Been kind of out of it for a little while. Where are we at now is right here. Up here at the top, you can see that Ecra Symphony last year found the one long day, the sign of the Son of Man in heaven on February the 11th. We've passed that. So now, February the 17th, I wanted to get out here and make a video 2 days ago. I just couldn't. And here we are coming up on, which is fine because now we're coming up on February the 21st. February the 21st, Adar 7, is the day that Moses was born and also the day that he died. That day is exactly 40 days after the January 11th uh, sun and moon eclipse uh, conjunctions that we saw. The center date was January the 11th. Well, that's 40 days away, and that's coming up tomorrow, the next day. So I found that pretty interesting. Then they mourn Moses for 30 days. And I'll show you that here in a moment. So what's up next? What's up next is February the 21st, very high wash day. Are we going to see a huge event take place, alerting all of, look, there's going to come a moment. And I've said this in the chat room in Discord. Patrick's in there now, and he's bringing his math, and this is what we do. We all get together, we all work together, we all try to figure things out. A lot of Patrick stuff goes right over my head because he's does math like that he finds stuff. It's crazy. He did the thing on Enoch. Where's he at here? Where'd you go, Patrick? Oh, right there. He did the thing on Enoch 365. He did some math on that. I was like, wow, that's absolutely incredible right there. And so go watch his latest video and subscribe to his channel. But here's the thing. We're all supposed to work together. That's biblical. That's not, oh, I'm going to find a fault with this person and I'm going to completely negate everything he's ever said because this one incident, he said this was going to happen on this day and then nothing happened. That's not how it works. We're all working together trying to, trying to get to this rapture date. But at the end, just like October the 7th happened, right on the timeline, perfectly on the timeline. I've showed you that it lands perfectly on the timeline. October 7th happens, and I'm like, I realize that God is going to show us. He is going to fulfill Amos 3:7. He is going to fulfill it because of Revelation 3:3. If you are watching, all this other math that we're doing, all this stuff we're trying to figure out is fantastic. That's what we're supposed to be doing. We're dreaming of that day to happen, the day that we're going to be taken out of here, taken to heaven, and given the most amazing thing in heaven that we don't even deserve. He chose us. I don't know why, but he did. And so that moment is going to happen. And along the way, we're going to keep shaking that present, trying to figure it out. We're all going to walk up with our puzzle pieces. But the one thing we're never supposed to do is, sorry about that, is discount somebody else. All right, let me get in this before I lose my voice and I can't speak anymore. So we're looking at February the 21st. Something. Is God going to show us something that will galvanize every single watcher to rush on here and do their math? Of course, I'm going to bring you to the timeline because everything on this, somebody said, this, you don't talk enough about Jesus. This entire timeline is about Jesus. Everything Jesus did, everything God did over the course of thousands of years, all combined onto a 1 year timeline. Of course, none of these events took place in the same year. They're all throughout time and history. So, but like October the 7th, something else is going to happen that's going to galvanize all of us. And we're going to come rushing on here. We're going to say, hey, mathematically, this is this and this is that. And I'm going to come on here and say, look, that lands perfect. Look at October the 7th. I mean, I couldn't even, I did this a long time ago. Like I've worked on this timeline for 5 years. Look at October the 7th right there. October the 8th, October the 7th, Jesus is named and circumcised. He was born on tabernacles. 8 days later, he was named and circumcised. The Jewish people weren't allowed or weren't able to celebrate the last day of tabernacles because of the invasion of Israel. It's right there. The date's right there. So we go forward here. And are we going to see something happen on February the 21st? Or how about Purim? I have February the 28th because that's accurate 3 years out of 4. It actually moves one day on the Gregorian calendar. It stays Adar 14, but there's an extra day added in there. You almost have to call it one long day, just like Equus Symphony found last year. But Purim will land on February the 29th. It will begin at nightfall on February the 28th in Israel. So, are we going to see an event there? I don't know. Keep. This is what Spinebreaker found. He's still working on this stuff. He is trying to Come to a date. He doesn't care what date it is either. He's just using the Bible to see if he can come to a date. He knows now because of, and of course, I'm not going to do it justice based on one verse, but our soul has escaped as a bird out of the snare of the fowlers. The snare is broken and we are escaped. This is Psalms 124. We believe because it's Psalms 124, speaking of the year 2024. It became the year 2024 on January the 1st. But Psalms 83, we could not be in the Psalms 83 in the year 5783 had the year changed back in September. Did not. It will change on March the 17th. That's when it will become 5784. So it's still 5783. We're still in the Psalms 83 war. From February the 29th. Now that's Purim. You go 40 days. Is this the Nineveh warning right here? Is this the sorry about that. Is this the 40 days? Are we going to see some warning on February the 29th on Purim? Or will it be February the 21st when Moses dies and they bury him, and then 33 days later, I guess we will see when we get there. And the children of Israel wept, sorry about that. And the children of Israel wept for Moses in the plains of Moab 30 days. So the days of weeping and mourning for Moses were ended. So they stayed there on this side, not crossing over into the land of Canaan, into the promised land for at least 30 days. We know that right here, at least 30 days. Now, after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass, what came to pass, the end of those 30 days, that the Lord spake unto Joshua, the son of Nun, Moses' minister, saying, Moses, my servant, is dead. Now, therefore, arise, go over this Jordan, thou and all this people, unto the land which I gave unto them. So, could we say that group amount of people would take at least 3 days, 3.5 days, even 84 hours to cross over into the promised land after the 30 days? And I show here that the initial period of mourning is 7 days. The Bible, I believe in Leviticus, gives 7 days. But in the case of somebody like Moses, who was very beloved, they gave 30 days. All right, and I show you this again. The head of the year, and I keep hearing people getting this confused. The law, there was no law of the 7 feasts prior to it being given to Moses. It did not exist at creation. It did not exist up to the flood. It did not exist after the flood. It didn't exist until here in Leviticus 23 when God handed it down. And the very first thing that God handed down was move the head of your year. So when we talk about the Feast of Trumpets landing on the 7th month and first day, there was no holiday there. There was nothing there because God had already moved it back in Exodus 12. The first law he handed down. See, God's very intent on the timeline. He wants us to know the timeline. We just have to listen and pay attention to what he's saying. So he moves Rosh Hashanah from 7th month and first day back to the 1st month and first day. He moves it exactly 182 days, 6 months. Now Rosh Hashanah is on March the 17th. Now we have a date that had something there that no longer has anything there. We continue reading down through the Bible and we find that God now assigns to the 7th month and first day. Now he assigns the Feast of Trumpets to it. I get so many questions. So did he move Feast of Trumpets? No, the Feast of Trumpets didn't even exist. He moved Rosh Hashanah. That's the first thing he did. Feast of Trumpets was enacted after he did that. Long after creation, long after the flood, all the way up to Moses, is when these things were enacted. This is when the law is being handed down. So we have the Passover feast. We have the Feast of First Fruits. We have the Feast of Pentecost. We have the Feast of Trumpets. The Lord spake unto Moses, saying, speaking to the children of Israel, saying, in the seventh month and first day. This is the very first time that Feast of Trumpets is enacted. He's giving them the law here in the desert for those 40 years. They're getting the law. They have chosen to be under the law. We are not under the law. We are under grace. But this is where the law came out. So they must have said to themselves, wow, so now this is the Feast of Trumpets. It's the seventh month and first day. This used to be, because they knew when the head of their year used to be the seventh month and first day for Rosh Hashanah, but they moved it back 6 months. Day of Atonement, Feast of Booths. All right, back to the timeline. Somebody asked me for a picture of Tick. That's Tick. Tick had a business before, and Tick's mother gave birth to a whole litter up in the attic, and she was the runt and fell in between the rafters. It took us about an hour to get her out of there. She was in there whining. We didn't even know what it was at first, and finally we got her out. There she is, all craziness of her, Tick. Oh, sorry. Now Jesus loved Martha and her sister. I want you to pay close attention. Words matter. Words matter a lot. You can't just gloss over the words of the Bible like, eh. And I hear this all the time. Jesus sat still to prove how, his greatness. No, he didn't. It's not why he sat still. Now Jesus loved Martha and his sister and Lazarus. He loved them. This is this is this this is deeper than you can ever imagine. For for this to be written into the Bible, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. When he heard therefore that he was sick, he sat 2 days. What? He did what? Well, wait a minute. You're curing people all over the place. You could have chose anybody to sit still for 2 days. Why did you sit still for 2 days? You loved them. You loved Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. When you heard, therefore, that he was sick, he abode 2 days still in the same place where he was. He just sat still. Oh, he's dying. Yeah, I should probably go over there. Let me sit down. There's a reason why he sat down. He sat down because he knew that he could not travel, and Jesus was a Jew and a good Jew, and he obeyed the law. He didn't come to break the law, he came to fulfill it, and he fulfilled the law of Rosh Hashanah because he sat still for 2 days. You cannot travel on Rosh Hashanah. Did you know the Feast of Trumpets is a 1 day celebration? It is not two. Rosh Hashanah, which they have confused with Feast of Trumpets, is a 2 day feast. Therefore, after that, saith he to his disciples, let us go into Judea again. He sat still because he received this news on March the 16th. March the 17th was Rosh Hashanah, and he sat still on March the 18th. He began walking for 2 days on the 19th, and on the 20th, he resurrected Lazarus. Jesus knew that he could do it at any point, but the point of these 2 days, and what everyone has missed this entire time about these 2 days, and everyone's coming up with their own theory about what the 2 days was for. What they missed was, it's Rosh Hashanah. That's why he sat still for 2 days. It's that simple. He didn't move because it was Rosh Hashanah, and he was trying to tell us when it was that this event took place. He was trying to let us know, and he continues to give us clues in this very, very important John 11. Jesus answered. They were going along. He's talking about Lazarus. He sits still for 2 days. Sorry about that. He sits still for 2 days. And then out of nowhere, again, words are super important. Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in a day? Come on. I would be like, All right, we're talking about Lazarus. He's either sick or he just died. Let's just sit still for 2 more days. Oh, and by the way, are there not 12 hours a day? Why does he just come up with this? He just throws this out here. He's still giving us clues as to when Lazarus died. Lazarus died on March the 16th, on the day where there are 12 hours in the day and 12 hours in the night. This only happens in Israel on March the 16th. It has always happened on March the 16th. It will never stop happening until the end of the millennium. It happened from creation. It happened during Jesus' time. It's happening right now, and it's going to happen for the next 1,000 years. There is a day, March the 16th, the day that Lazarus died, when there are 12 hours in the day, and the reason Jesus didn't move is because it was Rosh Hashanah. And I've showed you this before. Here we are. I just grabbed a year, or I've had this picture for a while, on the 16th, 12 hours in the day, 12 hours at night. Let's go back to 1756. It was as far back as I can go until they changed those 10 days. The Gregorian, remember, somebody back there changed it. They did it actually in 1500s, but this time and date decided to change it. If you go to 1755, you'll notice that it's on the 6th that those 10 days have been moved. But again, on the 16th, 12 hours a day and 12 hours a night. Let's jump forward 600 years. 12 hours a day, 12 hours a night. You cannot get that effect out of the equinox. The equinox moves by days every year. It goes forward, it goes backwards, it jumps around by hours. The equilux does not. It moves around by minutes every year. Just by minutes. Okay. Remember, Exodus, this is the first law God handed down. This month shall be unto you the beginning of months. It shall be the first month of the year. Do you know what that means? That literally means Rosh Hashanah. That's it, literally what Rosh Hashanah means. Head of the year, the first month, and the head of the year. That's what that means, Rosh Hashanah. And let's see here, first Passover. I don't know why I highlighted this. Speaking under the congregation, saying, oh, we're continuing on. On the 10th day, this is when you take the lamb in. This is also the day of the triumphant entry. And when I put it on the timeline, and I read in the Bible that 6 days prior to the cross, that he's having this meal, and I add all this into the timeline, it all matches perfectly. 14th day, that's the cross. All right. Last day's awakening. This guy's actually a preacher. Like he's ordained. Like it's like you have appendicitis, right? Are you going to go to a doctor? A guy that really studied hard in a medical journal, or a guy that's currently standing there on YouTube trying to figure out how to do an appendicitis? Which one would you prefer going to? Well, if you were in the tribulation and you were dying and you couldn't get to the actual preacher who knew, or to the guy that's been studying for 10 years in books, knowing how to do it, but never took the test, but he's been studying. Or the other guy said, and I'm flipping through, I got this. I can figure this out. I can do this. At the end of the day, you would choose, first of all, the doctor. Or then you, if you no doctor available, then you would choose the guy that's been studying this stuff for 10 years. And then finally, as opposed to dying or living, you'd go with the guy that's Googling how to do it, right? So my point is that when you see an actual preacher who is working on this stuff, trying to figure it out, it bears witness that we should be watching him. And he has a very good actual ministry, a very good ministry, and he's talks about this stuff. Last Days Awakening. Trying to remember his name. Jimmy? Is it Jimmy? I think it's Jimmy. Last Days Awakening. I love his channel. He's doing such a good job. His channel's actually pretty big. He's been at it for a little while. I just found him. This is what I'm talking about. There's these pockets of people all over the planet that are working on stuff that we don't necessarily uh, cross paths. And he's got quite a following. I'd never heard of him before. Last Days Awakening. Very good guy to watch. Oh, this is cool. I've asked Spinebreaker to work on this. I've asked him to work on this because no one knows the day or the hour. That is a Jewish idiom. For what? It is not for the Feast of Trumpets. It is because it's a 2-day Feast of Trumpets is a 1-day feast because Rosh Hashanah is a 2-day feast. The Jewish idiom actually is for Rosh Hashanah. So, is there any single one of you out there who will say, "Oh yeah, if it happens tomorrow, that's sooner than I ever thought"? Like, no, none of us are going to say that. We're all going to get to heaven, and none of us are going to go, "Wow, that was sooner than I thought." This is not sooner than we thought. We've been working on this forever. Nobody, nobody who's been watching will say it's sooner than they thought, unless it's an idiom. This came to me the other day, and I asked Spinebreaker to start working on it, and he is. And maybe some of you out there can work on this. But no man knows the day or the hour is a Jewish idiom for Rosh Hashanah. He is coming back sooner than you think has got to be some kind of a clue in and of itself, an idiom of sorts, a verse that we are supposed to dig through the Bible to find what it means. Does it have anything to do with anything that we're looking at coming up? Moses dying on the 21st. Purim happened on the 29th. The new year, Rosh Hashanah, happened on March 17th. Jesus going to the cross on March the 30th. Jesus resurrecting on April the 3rd, early in the morning. I don't know. So Spinebreaker's working on that. I welcome anybody to work on this. And since honestly, it literally makes no sense to us unless it's speaking to the tribulation saint, and they are currently not watching. There is no thought as to when the rapture is going to occur. The only other thing I could think of to apply this to would be to them. And when they see the rapture occur and they've heard you say, "When you see me go," and they start studying, they start going, "Wow, it's 3.5 years." Maybe this is a verse speaking to them that it's sooner than they think. I don't know. That's what we're working on. So this is a little bit of Kevin's work. But I'll be there sooner than you think, God willing, and then we'll see if they're full of anything but hot air. I don't know what translation you got that from, but he's been working on it. No one knows the day or the hour is a Hebrew idiom for Feast of Trumpets. It is not a Hebrew idiom for Feast of Trumpets. It is the Hebrew idiom for Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah is a 2-day feast. Trumpets is not. It is a 1-day feast. Since they've confused the two holidays together, God's not going to put two separate holidays on the same day. I showed you how the 7th month and first day used to be Rosh Hashanah. He moved it back 6 months, but then God assigned Feast of Trumpets to that day, which is a 1-day feast. So the reason no man knows the day or the hour is because Rosh Hashanah happens on March the 17th. And I'll tell you, there's very few that know that that's the head of the year. Very, very few that know that that is Rosh Hashanah. Yeshua was saying that he would come for his bride at Rosh Hashanah. And then in parentheses, they have Feast of Trumpets. They are wrong. It is not that day. Feast of Trumpets happens on the 7th month, first day. Rosh Hashanah happens on the 1st month and first day, which is March the 17th. Beloved, check your calendar. Colossians 2:16 through 18, Matthew 25:13. Explanation: Rosh Hashanah is the only feast not based on a moon. And I will stand here and tell you that none of them are based on the moon. But in here, just for the sake of this argument, Rosh Hashanah is not based on a new moon, which would mean that the head of the year has nothing to do with the moon. But the first day of the first month, which is a day that must first be sanctified after Jerusalem court receives testimony of witnesses who saw the new moon, which again I've showed you so many times. The word moon is not Chodesh. Chodesh means month. Everyone else in the world waits to hear confirmation. It can take up to 48 hours. Therefore, no man knows the day or the hour. They have initially rightly said it's not based on the new moon, but then they are using the new moon. That's why the feast is 2 days. So we continue on. Rosh Hashanah is 2 days long, and it usually occurs during the month of September. How is Rosh Hashanah celebrated? So they're showing here they're disobeying the Bible. Exodus 12 clearly says this now is the head of your year. It moves it back to March the 17th from the seventh month and first day, which is September the 15th. Moves it back and is the only feast that's 2 days long. So therefore, no man knows the day or the hour. It's quickly coming upon us here on March 17th. There is this, I heard that it's Gina in the Discord. She does all of our news. Amazing with all the stuff she finds. Uh, somebody found something where they were actually going to partition Israel without Israeli permission. They were just going to do it. I was just like, wow. Looking up. She has a YouTube and a Facebook. Um, I personally hope we are gone in February. If we go to March, I am clueless on dates except Repo Man 17th, beginning of the year. The other thing to look at is when the barley is a beep. Again, barley is in spring, right? The church's first fruits and barley last year. I was, let's see here. I guess I'm not sure why I highlighted that, except she names God's Land Down Under, and I want to promote her channel on Facebook. She does a lot of great work. Oh, yeah, this is this is well, I used to advertise everybody, but I'm gonna. Oh, Garrett, the news guy. Garrett, the news guy. He is an actual preacher. He is ordained. He is a preacher. So he has these rapture kits. If you contact him, he will give them to you for free. I would donate to this guy because he's not asking for anything, but he has these rapture kits he gives out. If you have the ability, I don't know if he even has an ability to give him money. I've never heard him ask. So, but these rapture kits that he's putting together are a good thing. You contact him, you give somebody's address, and he will ship them this rapture kit. And when the people get it, hopefully they don't toss it out. But we're out of time. We're out of time right now. So let's see. Watch. He gets on here and he names all the watchmen, and this is everybody that I watch. Billboard for Christ. I'm not sure. I have to go look that one up. Billboard for Christ. Huh. Ikra Symphony. Please go watch her video. I asked her if she could get on here and do her engineering skills, put her engineering skills to work, and she worked on the sign of Jonah, which I thought was amazing. The work she did. End Time Watchman. I always forget that Watchman part. End Time Watchman. Uh, Patrick. He's done this right here. This right here will blow your mind. These last two videos really will, but this one, Enoch 365, will absolutely blow your mind with what he's found. The math is incredible with what he's done. Happy Purim! This is from last year when Purim came up. Let's see here, looking up again. I'm not of this world. Oh, this is the Nineveh 40 days warning. If you count from January the 11th, when we saw all of those eclipses coming together, like we did, and we waited on January 11th, it kind of went silent, but 40 days from there lands on February the 20th. Moses dies on February the 21st. So you go all the way out to the very end of February the 20th, and it becomes the 21st in Israel, the day Moses died. Is that the 40-day warning? The sign of Jonah? 40 days right there. Then, from Moses dying on February the 21st, the next day being the first day, you count, and March the 26th will be the 30 days that they mourned Moses and the 3 days for them to get up and get across into the promised land, perhaps even 84 hours across, how the same amount of time Jesus actually spent in the grave, 84 hours. March the 26th being the triumphant entry. So come back here, January the 11th will run us right up here to February the 21st. And then the day Moses dies, you go 30 and 3 days and you come right back to here. Hold on one second. Triumphant entry, March the 26th. 30 days plus 3.5 days to get across. And I asked Sister Sandy if she didn't mind to put the ages of uh, Miriam and Moses and Aaron, and then put it on the timeline. And they, of course, as always happens, Miriam, and I don't know how Patrick found the dates that they died, but this is the dates, Nisan 10. Probably right in the Bible. I don't know. It's not a date that I found previously. I just had asked Sister Sandra if she put them on here. Miriam dies at the age of 127. She is 3.5 years older than Aaron. She is born 3.5 years before Aaron is born, and Aaron is born 3.5 years before Moses is born. They all die, of course, they have to, before they cross over into the promised land. So the Bible, I think, records, or I don't know if it's extra biblical, I'd have to find it, but on Nisan 10, Miriam dies. She is 127 years old. She is 7 years older. And again, Patrick over at End Time Watchman really did some math on that. And that's the type of stuff he does, which is it's phenomenal. We go forward, and we're going to find over here that Aaron dies at the age of 123. Of course, he is 3.5 years between Aaron and Moses. I'm sorry, between Miriam and Moses. Aaron is the middle child. He is 123 when he dies, and again, they find this date to be the first of Av, which is July 16th. This is the day that Moses threw the tablets down. So on Aaron's birthday, he's coming down out of the mountain. He sees all of this stuff going on. It's Aaron's birthday, and he throws the tablets down and breaks them. That happens on Aaron's birthday, on the first of Av. Pretty cool how that lines up. And then, of course, which I've already shown you, Moses is born and dies at the age of 120. He is the youngest out of the three of them, and he is 7 years younger than Miriam and 3.5 years younger than Aaron, and he dies on February the 21st, which is Adar 7. And so, very high watch days, February the 21st, February the 29th, because it's a leap year, it's the 29th for Purim. And then we move on forward to the March the 16th here, the day Lazarus dies. Mary and Martha buried their brother on March the 16th, so they are unclean, which is why they couldn't have this meal with Jesus until the 8th day, because they were unclean for 7. And we see that down here. Every date that I've found falls perfectly in place. This is why Jesus ate with them 6 days prior to the cross, on Nisan 8, March 24th, and then 2 days later, he was a triumphant entry. The same day, same age, it's the same date as Miriam dies. So wow, just wow, how everything just falls perfectly onto there. So all right, sorry about all the coughing. I wanted to get that on here. Um, we're all working together. We're all trying to figure this out together. And in the end, an October the 7th event is going to take place, and God is going to tell us in the end. But wasn't it fun? All the work we did, all the learning we did, all the tons of paperwork that everybody has leading there. My timeline before Sister Sandy put it all onto a spreadsheet like she did. My crayon timeline. 5 years worth of work right there. So we just keep watching. I think that something gigantinormous, lack of a better word, is going to occur that's going to galvanize all of us. And we're all going to run and make a video. And I'm going to go to the timeline to show you when it happened. Somebody else is going to do, Patrick is going to do just a ton of math. Equus Symphony is going to do a ton of engineering and stellarium work, each in our own way. We're going to bring to the table our piece of the puzzle and say it fits. This is finally it fits. It all fits together. Everybody's gonna do that. So it's going to be incredible. And at the end of the day, it's God. It's God that's going to fulfill Amos 3:7. I've said that for years, and it really made people upset. I am not going to be the one to tell you the date, although the date appears on that timeline somewhere. I'm not going to be definitively able to tell you that date, but God, when He shows us that October 7th event, mathematics is going to take over, and we're going to say, okay, this here now is perfect, and it'll fit everybody's work that they've been doing for years, and we'll all be like, oh, you mean all we had to do was wait? I think that's written in there somewhere. Just wait, right? But it's been a fun journey as we've gone forward through this. So anyway, Repo Man 64, like, comment, share, and subscribe. And get the like it because it might help during the tribulation for the algorithm. I think it's going to be a blip, a rapture so quick, and power might go out for a few days, but it's going to come back on, and life's going to return to somewhat normal. And the Antichrist is going to step up, and it's not going to be crazy town initially. So, and no, I don't think that all of the YouTube channels are going to be wiped out and nobody will be able to find anything. I think that if they look, they're going to be able to find it. So that's why I say like the video. And I'm guilty of that too. I watch a video and I just completely forget to hit the like button, and I go back a lot of times and do that just to make sure that that video sticks around, just doing my part to make sure that piece of information that they came up with sticks around after the rapture. And go to a quiet place by yourself. Nobody needs to know. You don't need to tell anybody except the Lord into your heart. We're running out of time. There isn't any time left. Before anybody comments on what I just said, Matthew 6, 5 and 6 is why I say that. And I'm going to get off here because my throat's scratchy and I got to get some rest. So, all right, Repo Man 64. We will chat again later. And once that event occurs, which it's coming, it is coming. Once that event occurs, bats, so many bats out here in the secret broadcast cave, or moths, same thing. Um, Once that event takes place, I'm telling you, I'm telling you, it's going to take place. October the 7th happened. This event is going to take place, and I could name 100 different YouTubes that are going to approach that event in their own way, with their own math, with Stellarium, with my timeline, with everything else that people are working on, with just everything. And they're going to be like, oh, that makes sense, you know? So keep watching. It's coming. And I'll be back on here, uh, depending if I feel better soon. I'll be back on here. Chat with you again later.